I have absolutely loved Dragon Quest I and II HD-2D Remake. I even went out my way to do 100% because I loved every moment. You can check that video in the cards and in the description down below. And I'm now starting a Draconian Quest playthrough, and I was thinking, you know, maybe it would be nice to share some tips that I've gathered along the way during my time with the game to share with new players that are coming into Dragon Quest for the first time, players that are familiar with Dragon Quest, and maybe I may even surprise the veterans. So in today's video, I'm going to be giving you some tips to help you along your way in both Dragon Quest I and II, so I'm hoping you can join me in today's video for this one. So with that all being said, what is up guys, Jen here, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the channel. Got you covered with timestamps, so if you want to get to a certain tip, feel free to do so. All I ask is you to support the channel, hit the like button, it helps out a lot, and if you want to stick around for some more Dragon Quest content, you're already in the right place. Just hit that subscribe button. Now, I really want to get everyone involved in the comments, so if anything that's helped you out, let me know in the comment section below. If there is a tip you would like to share, go down there and comment that too. I'm not going to be covering every single thing, but there might be something that you've picked up that you want to share with everybody, and you are more than welcome to do that. Let's make this a place for everyone to gather, to share tips, take tips, and have a great playthrough. But before we dive in, allow me to just talk to you about our partners at Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is a website where you can get thousands of Steam games at incredible prices. All you gotta do is click the link down below, and then you will have access to the website where you can pick up RPGs like Dragon Quest, you can pick up horror games like Resident Evil, and they will all be at a really good price for you to purchase. Not only will you be supporting the channel by doing that, using the link, you'll also be saving yourself some money. So thanks to Instant Gaming and happy shopping. Now let's get into that list. Now this first one is probably going to be a very obvious one, but this is where Dragon Quest shines for me, and that is to explore. Explore everywhere. You are going to find items in pots, barrels, in chests, and just all over the world, sparkling on the world map. Now later in the game, you will get two skills that are quite necessary to get all of the treasure, and that is Nose for Treasure and Snoop. Nose for Treasure will tell you how many items are remaining in a location, and Snoop will reveal any hidden items with a sparkly effect. But before you get them, because you do get Snoop as you get this one quite late in the game, you do want to be exploring everywhere. Look around, because some of these items are definitely going to help you out along your way. You might find a weapon that's going to help you. Maybe it has a property to it that allows you to do more damage to undead monsters, and you're in a dungeon full of undead monsters. So it's definitely worth your time going out your way trying to find these treasures. Don't worry if you don't, because like I said, later down the line, you'll get Nose for Treasure, and then you'll get Snoop to be able to sweep everything up in the long run. Next up is a feature I've never really spoken about, and if you're playing this without quest markers and you're really wanting to embrace what Dragon Quest is all about, is to talk to the NPCs. And not only talking to the NPCs will they tell you maybe where to go, they may allude to locations you may go to in the future, and you'll think back and be like, hey, this character mentioned this place, and they said something along these lines of talking to someone in this house. It's really important to talk to these NPCs, but there is a feature actually that is very useful if you do end up forgetting, or if you end up ending a play session and playing the next week. It's the recall command. So essentially what you can do is, once you spoke to an NPC, and let's say this NPC has said that they have gone down to the town in the south and they've heard a legend about a bard, and that might not be important to you right now, but you feel like it's going to be important to you a little bit later. You can go into the recall command and save that line of text. So next time you boot up your game, if you want to refresh your memory, go into that recall menu, and it's split down from location where you spoke to that NPC, and then it will have the name of the NPC, and you can look back at what they said. And this is really helpful for those that are having that true Dragon Quest experience, to the point where they are not following quest objectives, but they are interacting with NPCs. And because there's so many and they are all full of life, it's really easy to forget what they've said. So the recall command is just as important to talking to NPCs, because NPCs could reveal to something you could completely miss, because there are side quests that you could miss, little side stories here or there, and they could allude to items and weapons that could really help you out on your journey. Now, most of these tips are going to be applying to both Dragon Quest 1 and 2, but where Dragon Quest 1 and 2 differentiate is in its combat, because Dragon Quest 1, you are the solo hero, and in Dragon Quest 2, you have up to 4 party members, so there's quite the difference. So this one is more focused on Dragon Quest 1, since you are the solo hero. You may be used to playing your RPGs and attacking left, right, and center, and hoping for the best, and using the most powerful spells you have in your arsenal. Well, with Dragon Quest 1, it's much more beneficial to take a reserved approach. Now, straight off the bat, you are equipped with an ability called Cop Out, and very early on in the game, you get another ability called Sandstorm. These are going to be essential, as you are going to be fighting enemies that are going to be in groups more than yourself, and you could get quite overwhelmed. So what Cop Out will do is it will reflect damage back onto the enemy when they attack you, which could decrease these groups quite quickly if used efficiently, and Sandstorm reduces the accuracy of all the enemies, so they have more chances of missing. What I've loved about Dragon Quest 1 is that it does emphasize the use of abilities that aren't physical, and it's very vital if you want to have a smooth experience to be able to use what you have to your disposal, and these two abilities straight off the bat will help you out considerably on your early adventure. When it comes to Dragon Quest 2 in these situations, you want to take what you've learned from Dragon Quest 1 and be aware of what all your abilities do, because you could get quite overwhelmed in Dragon Quest 2. Even though you may be having an even playing field, these enemies have all been balanced to cater to both Dragon Quest 1 and 2 differently, and you really want to have a look through your skills and your spells as efficiently as possible. So the next thing I want to talk about is weapons, armor, and accessories. With Dragon Quest, it's not all about grabbing and equipping the weapons and armor that gives you more attack or more defense. Though that can be beneficial in certain situations, especially if you're going against fodder enemies. When you're going against certain enemies in dungeons, and especially bosses, you need a little bit more thinking going into it, because there are a plethora of items that come with specific properties. For example, there's a dagger that you get pretty early on in Dragon Quest 1, which does extra damage against undead monsters, and lo and behold, the location you get it, you're going to be going against some undead monsters, so it is trying to incentivize you to use it to get used to how these systems work. You might want to keep using your sword with more damage numbers, but it will really be in your favor if you have a weapon that's going to help you out. This also applies to the armor. You might want to get as much defense as you can and as quickly as you can, but there are other statistics and attributes that you will want to think about, especially when it comes to evasion, because in Dragon Quest 1, like we've gone over, you are the solo hero, so you're going to be getting hit a lot. If you can increase your evasion by equipping something that can increase that, you probably more than likely want to keep that equipped. So there's so much more thinking going into these as you go and get them, and it's also beneficial to probably keep some weapons on your persons, because you can change your equipment in battle. This does take a turn, but it's probably going to work in your favor in the long run. Now, there may be armor that you will pick up, and the statistic is so high that you just can't resist equipping it straight away. I suggest you stop right there. Take a moment and read the description, because if it says something along the lines of, when equipping this saps the user's HP with each step taken, then equipping it is going to be a bad idea. And you're probably thinking, well, I can just unequip it if it doesn't make sense. No, that's going to be a cursed item, my friend, and it's going to be stuck on you until you go talk to your local priest and have them remove it for you. So as tempting as it might be to equip these weapons and armor, read those descriptions. Now, this next tip is a little bit later in the game, but these are mechanics that are really going to come into play if you are playing on a normal difficulty or draconian difficulty, and that is the sigils. Though these are story-based, they bring gameplay properties that are going to help out considerably, especially in Dragon Quest 1. So the Sun Sigil, once you obtain it, allows you the chance of hitting more critical hits. The Moon Sigil allows you to have the chance of spells and healing spells doing more numbers. The Star Sigil can be key in dungeons where you need to replenish your MP. Say that you've changed your strategy ever so slightly and you are using more spells. If you decide to defend, you will replenish some MP, so you might want to spend a couple of battles defending to replenish that MP. Once you've got the Water Sigil, this will increase the potency of items. And then there's the Soul Sigil, which I believe is the most important out of all of the sigils, especially in Dragon Quest 1, because this allows the abilities that you've gathered, whether it's from leveling up or getting scrolls to transform them into more powerful versions. Now, the prerequisite for this to happen in Dragon Quest I and Dragon Quest II is if your hero's HP is below than 50%, and then you can go ham. So maybe you want to play a more risk-reward situation to get these more powerful abilities off, but there are other conditions that can be met, so you're not on low health all the time. In Dragon Quest I, to get this to trigger, you can either be under the effect of Focus Pocus or being under the effects of Re-Heal. So bear that in mind. Once you're under those effects, which usually last a couple of turns, you can turn some of your skills into souped up skills, which will really give you the edge in battle and ensure you the victory. In Dragon Quest II, you can get these to proc along the same lines, but you need to be under different effects. For the Prince of Midenhall, if you're under the effect of Focus Pocus and buff. For the Prince of Cannock, it's under the effects of Dodgy Dance and being under the effects of Re-Heal. For the Princess of Moonbrook, it's being under the effects of Wild Side and being under the effects of Snap, Crackle and Poof. And for the Princess of Cannock, it's being under the effects of Dodgy Dance and under the effects of Absorb Magic. You can also read various bookcases and talk to NPCs, and they will tell you a list of abilities that they used in order for them to have a grand finale for something to proc. I believe this also is another way you can proc skills in their souped up forms. Now, the last tip I'm going to be sharing with you today isn't necessarily, I guess it is a tip, but it's also maybe, hey, you might want to go to this location to get a couple of levels. And of course, I'm going to be talking about the slimes. So in Dragon Quest I and II, you will have metal slimes and you'll have liquid metal slimes. Anyone that's played Dragon Quest knows that you get more experience from them, though these difficult buggers can be quite hard to hit. And when you do hit them, if it isn't a critical, it will only do 1 damage, and then they have an increased chance of running away from the battlefield. These are rare battles that might happen, and then once you're in them, the outcome could be very different depending on how you tackle this. The best way to tackle this is to make sure that you have something like a metal slash ability or something that can guarantee the crit, but these skills are usually more catered towards the end game of both games, so you do need to rely on luck. But if you know the locations where they spawn, then you can try that luck a little bit more. Now, for Dragon Quest I, you can meet metal slimes quite early in the game at the south of Damdara, but you need to be careful because this location, if you are not leveled appropriately, can really cause you to probably die very, very quickly. But if you are the right level and want to gain more levels, you can find metal slimes in this location, and then the liquid metal slimes you'll find appear in the Dragon Lord's Castle, which of course is the endgame dungeon. So we are focusing on quite far out there, but it's for those that want to. As for Dragon Quest II and the locations of the metal slimes and liquid metal slimes in that game, for the metal slimes, you can find them in the same location as Dragon Quest I, just south of Damdara, and these have a chance of dropping both Seeds of Agility and Elevating Shoes. There's also an island just near the Dragon Quest I world where slimes will constantly be. I didn't find any liquid metal slimes, but metal slimes definitely appear here as well, and they can appear in quite big groups. The liquid metal slimes can be found in the infamous dungeon, the Passage to Renderok, and these also drop Elevating Shoes as their normal drop, and their rare drop, they drop the Falcon Sword of Ruin. So it's definitely something to keep your mind on while farming metal slimes in both games. But there we have it, a couple of tips to help you along your way while playing through Dragon Quest I and II. You may have known about them, you may not have known about them. I'm just tackling this from my Draconian playthrough now and what's helping me out. So this can be, again, catered to both new and old players alike, and I invite you to the comments section down below to get involved and throw more tips down there. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to visit Instant Gaming to get games at incredible prices, and I'll catch you on the flip side.